the Texas Stingray is one of the most fascinating animals in the world. This rare species of land ray only exists in San Antonio. The amazing creature has a skeleton that is made entirely out of steel, which serves as the animal's support structure. In contrast, the Texas Stingray has an outer layer that consists primarily of wood, leading to a swimming pattern that feels less controlled than its steel counterparts. For more information on this magnificent creature, be sure to stay tuned into Mostly Coasters.
I'm gonna rank every coaster and give them my review. Every drop and every hill, every launch and every loop. Rate it 1 to 10 and then we'll do it all again. Gonna rank and review every coaster.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Mario and I need a haircut. And this is a channel all about amusement park type stuff, but mostly coasters. Today, in my never-ending journey to rank and review every single coaster I have ever been on, we're going to be talking about Texas Stingray at SeaWorld San Antonio. Real quick, I just want to say thank you to my subscribers. You guys are awesome. And to anybody not subscribed, you better subscribe or else I will sting you. But without any further ado, let's review. Just like my last review, this is a wooden coaster manufactured by GCI. Texas Stingray has a max height of 96 feet, a top speed of 55 miles per hour, a track length of 3,379 feet, and a ride duration of approximately 56 seconds from the end of the lift to the start of the final brakes. This coaster has fairly limited theming, but it has a very nice appearance. It has an aesthetically pleasing sign that appears to be a mix of a stingray and the Texas flag. The ride entrance and queue area has nice landscaping, and the trains of this ride look very nice as well, with a ray on the lead car. And it has some decent shading in the queue as well. And when it comes to the on-ride experience, I love this coaster. It really impressed me with how unique it was. The layout, which I'll go further into later, has a first half that feels more like an old school GCI, with long, tall, swooping turns, and a second half that feels like a modern GCI, with fast-paced transitions, low-to-the-ground maneuvers, and general craziness. And since I rode this ride in its opening year, it was one of the smoothest coasters I have ever been on. But it did still feel out of control, as any good wooden coaster should. It also runs Millennium Flyer trains, which I love, so Texas Stingray provides a very comfortable ride. Now let's go a little bit deeper into this coaster's layout. You dispatch out of a station and turn immediately into a lift hill that brings you to that aforementioned top height of 96 feet before descending a straight drop. Which, if you're familiar with GCI, almost all of their drops are turning, so this straight drop, for them at least, is very unique. And I think the drop is pretty decent. Unfortunately, the only place you really get airtime on it is towards the back row, where you do get some really good sustained floater airtime, but in all the rows towards the front of the train, you don't really experience any airtime at all. That drop takes you into the ride's first hill that starts off straight and ends in a turn. And to be completely honest, overall, I prefer this ride in the front row, particularly in the first half, because there are several hills and turns very similar to this first one, where you are cresting the sharpest part of the hill at the fastest speed in the front row. So for this first hill in particular, the front row hits the crest of the hill with so much more speed than the back does, and by the time the back is regaining its speed, you are turning instead of going over a hill. The hilly turn that follows the first is definitely more of a turn than a hill, but it is still better experienced in the front row. This element provides very strong laterals, as well as it quickly goes from unbanked to banked, turning you to the right. This lets out into an element that is very similar, that turns to the left as opposed to the right. However, the transition from unbanked into banked is far less abrupt on this element, so the laterals aren't as strong, but in the front row especially, you do still get some decent airtime. And on this element, the airtime in the back is actually a bit better as well, just because you're traveling through it with so much speed that the speed difference between the front and the back row is less exaggerated. You then fly into a quick dip that brings you down to ground level, and this provides strong floater airtime in all rows. You get more laterals as you're whipped to the left, and you head into one of my favorite elements on the ride, this twisting airtime hill. This is another one that provides strong airtime in all rows, in addition to some really fun laterals throwing you side to side. That element continues into a right-hand turn that provides very strong laterals when going from banked to unbanked, and then a nice pop of ejector airtime as you transition down under the support structure that provides a great head chopper as well. You then turn left and experience what can only really be described as something between an outer banked or off-axis airtime hill combined with a wave turn. It's a really small element, but you are banked pretty far to the left as you are also navigating a hill. So you get a really fun floating sensation while having a lot of laterals leaning on your left. This element flows very smoothly and lets you out into a more traditional airtime hill that provides very mild floater, definitely one of the weaker parts of the ride, which is followed by a mild turnaround that lets you off into another more traditional airtime hill that provides more floater airtime before whipping around into the only other moment that provides better airtime in the back row. In the front row, this drop into the tunnel barely provides any airtime at all, while in the back row you're treated to strong floater airtime. This tunnel is really nice and definitely adds to your sense of speed and makes it a little harder to tell what direction you're going to be going next. Now, these couple of turns don't particularly provide any noticeable forces, but you get to just enjoy traveling at a high speed while generally feeling a little out of control. You hit one last elongated floater airtime hill before turning into the final brakes, and this turn provides some very strong laterals throwing you to the left of the train. As you can tell from the POV, this turn is slightly banked, but it unbanks before you are done turning. So that last little piece of track before the final brakes is where you're greeted with those really strong lateral G-forces. And that concludes Texas Stingray's layout. So what would I rate this coaster? I absolutely love how the ride gets better as you go along, with the pacing getting faster, the elements getting shorter and tighter and more aggressive. And I think it's very unique and a nice change of pace from most of the other wooden coasters out there. All in all, it's genuinely difficult to find any negatives with this ride. If anything, maybe I wish it were a more consistent ride experience regardless of where you're sitting on the train. But nonetheless, I think this ride is worthy of a 9 out of 10. That lands it at number 24 out of the 229 coasters that I have been on. And I know that seems kind of high up, but this ride is fun, out of control. It's probably surprising to y'all that it's above Mystic Timbers, but again, I only got one ride on Mystic Timbers. But that's enough of what I think about the coaster. Let me know your thoughts if you've been on it, if you want to ride it, all in the comments down below. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications for more content like this. And make sure to tune in next time where I'll be talking about whatever this wheel lands on.